Hello learners, you're welcome to study session 7. In study session 7, we shall be talking about the English sentence. The English sentence. On completion of study session 7, you should be able to explain what a sentence is. You should be able to list and explain sentence types according to structure. And you should also be able to list and explain sentence types according to function. In the hierarchical structure of grammatical units, the sentence is the highest and largest. And that is why it is important that you get familiar with the various structures of the English sentence and the functions that sentences can be made to perform. A very good user of a language is one who understands how words in that language are arranged into meaningful strings of expressions. And what this suggests is that words are not just arranged anyhow. They are arranged according to some patterns which would make meaning generation possible. As we interact with one another on a daily basis, we make use of language. And there is the need for us to know the structures and the functions that the expressions, the sentences that we make use of in any language. We need to know the structures and the functions that they have or the functions that they perform. That is why we are talking about the structure of the English sentence and the functions that the English sentences perform. What is a sentence? A sentence begins with an uppercase letter and ends with a full stop. Not only that, a sentence can end with a question mark or an exclamation mark. In other words, any expression or sentence that cannot attract any of the punctuation marks, that is the full stop, the question mark, or the exclamation mark, is not a sentence. It is unfortunate that most students don't know what a sentence is, particularly when those sentences are written on paper. There are a lot of people who make use of punctuation marks anyway, anyhow. Some decorate their notebooks with punctuation marks. They put this mark here, put that one there, wherever they deem fit, and at what point they feel they should put it there. There are rules guiding the use of punctuation marks. And so these three punctuation marks, the full stop, the question mark, and the exclamation mark, are used at the end of any expression that can stand as a sentence. So, talking about the presentation of a sentence on paper, it must begin with an uppercase letter and it must end with a full stop. Now, this definition of sentence is based on the way sentences are written on paper. Another definition of a sentence you need to be familiar with is that which describes a sentence as a group of words which conveys a complete or full meaning. It is expected that a sentence will make a complete sense. A sentence should be able to convey to you a complete thought. Consider the following. When I was 10 years old. When I was 10 years old. If I stand before you and I say, oh, good morning. When I was 10 years old, and I keep quiet. Then I look at another person, oh, good afternoon. When I was 10 years old. Does that make any sense to you? No, it doesn't. So, a sentence must be able to convey a complete thought or meaning. This group of words, when I was 10 years old, cannot be said to be a sentence. And so, if you put a full stop at the end of that expression, you have made a mistake, because a sentence that must attract a full stop, the sentence that must attract a full stop must be a sentence that conveys a complete meaning. Now, consider this. When I was 10 years old, I wrote a book. When I was 10 years old, I wrote a book. Is that not meaningful? Is that not completely meaningful? Compare it to the first one, when I was 10 years old. Now, when I was 10 years old, I wrote a book. It's complete in meaning. It conveys a complete sense or thought, and so it is a sentence. It can conveniently attract a full stop at the end of it. Another way of defining a sentence is to describe it in terms of structure. Structurally, a sentence can be divided into subject and predicate. The subject is the performer of the action expressed in the verb, while the predicate is the part of the sentence after the subject which contains the verb, and that verb is referred to by some scholars as predicator. So, a sentence can be divided into two, the subject and the predicate, as you can see on the screen. You need to note that sometimes the subject is not included in the sentence. Therefore, a main or full verb can be regarded as a sentence, just as I have demonstrated to you on the screen here. That's number 4, where you have smile. Take a look at these sentences. I am happy. That's a sentence, and it conveys a complete meaning. It ends with a full stop. Are you happy? That's a sentence. It conveys a complete meaning. It begins with an uppercase letter. It attracts a question mark. This is great. This is great. That's another sentence that conveys a complete meaning. It begins with an uppercase letter and it ends with an exclamation mark. Take a look at number 4. In that sentence, there is just one word. Smile. Smile. So if I say to you, smile, that's a sentence, even though we have just one word in that sentence. You may begin to wonder, is it possible to have a sentence that has just one word? It is not about the length of the sentence. It is about meaning conveyance. It is about whether the sentence is meaningful completely on its own. And so the word smile is a lexical verb or a main verb that has a content meaning and can be regarded as a sentence. Now, let's look at sentence types according to structure. Structurally, a sentence can be made up of one or more main clauses and subordinate clauses. Remember that in study session 6, I told you that there are main clauses, there are subordinate clauses. I told you that main clauses are also referred to as independent clauses, and that subordinate clauses are also referred to as dependent clauses. Now, the following types of sentences are identified when structure is considered. Number 1, we can have a simple sentence. Number 2, we have the compound sentence. Number 3, we have the complex sentence. Number 4, we have the compound complex sentence. Number 5, we have the multiple sentence. And then number 6, we have the multiple complex sentence. Let's take a look at them one by one. The simple sentence contains one main clause or one independent clause. Remember also that I told you in the previous session that a main clause can stand alone and be regarded as a simple sentence. And here we are talking about the simple sentence today. The simple sentence is made up of one main clause, otherwise known as independent clause. And so an independent clause is a simple sentence. A simple sentence is an independent clause or a main clause. Now, there are some possible structures of the simple sentence. That is, the simple sentence can have different structures. Let's take a look at a few of them. Number 1, the simple sentence can have the structure that contains the subject, the verb, and the object, as you can see on the screen. The first sentence on the screen is John kicked the ball. John kicked the ball. The subject is John, the performer of the action in this sentence. The action itself is kicked, and the object, that entity that receives the action that is expressed in the verb, is the object, and that is the ball in the sentence we are considering. John kicked the ball. John kicked the ball. Here we have the subject, the verb, and the object. Sentence 2, we have John kicked the ball in the garden. John kicked the ball in the garden. Here we have the subject, John, the verb, kicked, the object, the ball, and then we have introduced the adjunct. The adjunct tells us where the action takes place. So, John kicked the ball. Where? In the garden. So, we have the subject, the verb, the object, and the adjunct in the structure of this sentence. Now, sentence number 3 on the screen is John is skillful. John is skillful. Here we have the subject, which is John. We have the verb. And note that the verb here is ordinarily an auxiliary verb, but which is existing alone, an auxiliary verb that is existing alone in this sentence and acting as the main verb. John is skillful. Now, the word skillful gives us information about who? About John. Who is skillful? John. Who is John? The one who is skillful. So the two words are related. John is skillful. The person who is skillful is John. So we refer to the word skillful here as a complement, helping to complete the meaning, helping to complete the understanding of the subject. So the word skillful is a subject complement or a complement of the subject. There are other structures of the simple sentence. You will have to refer to the JNS course materials for these other structures and their examples. Let's take a look at number 2, the compound sentence. This contains two main clauses which can be linked by means of any of the coordinating conjunctions and, or, and, but. Take a look at those three words, and, or, and, but. Now, in the sentence on the screen, there are two main clauses, and a compound sentence must contain two main clauses. Here we have main clause 1. She went to school. That can stand alone and convey to us a complete thought or meaning. Then we have main clause 2. She passed her exams. She passed her exams. Now, these two main clauses can be joined together. They can be linked by means of the word and to become one sentence instead of two simple sentences. In other words, a compound sentence contains two simple sentences, which are two main clauses. So we have a new sentence that is now one, linked by, containing two main clauses linked by a coordinator. So she went to school and passed her exams. She went to school and passed her exams. That is a sentence that has been generated, and that sentence is a compound sentence. Number 3, let's talk about the complex sentence. This contains one main clause and one or more subordinate clauses. One main clause and one or more subordinate clauses. Look at the example. She went to school. That's a main clause. It can stand on its own. Now, there is another clause. Because her parents were rich. Because her parents were rich. She went to school. Meaningful, simple sentence. A main clause. Because her parents were rich. That's not a main clause. That's a subordinate clause. Because it is not complete in meaning. It is a dependent clause. It has to depend on the main clause for completion of its meaning. So, in a complex sentence, there is one main clause and one or more subordinate clauses. So that this sentence, she went to school because her parents were rich, is a very good example of a complex sentence that has one main clause and how many subordinate clauses? One. Take a look at the definition of the complex sentence again. You will discover that in a complex sentence, there must be one main clause, but there could be one subordinate clause or more than one subordinate clauses. So, look at the second example. Here, we have one main clause. She went to school. Then we have subordinate clause 1. When she was young. Subordinate clause 2. Because her parents were rich. So, to generate a single sentence, we need to bring these three together, that is the one main clause and the two subordinate clauses. So that we have, she went to school when she was young because her parents were rich. She went to school when she was young because her parents were rich. Now, let's talk about number 4, compound complex sentence. The compound complex sentence is made up of two main clauses and one or more subordinate clauses. We have main clause 1, she went to school. Then we have main clause 2, she passed her exams. And then we have the subordinate clause, because she was brilliant. The sentence, she went to school and passed her exams because she was brilliant, is a very good example of a compound complex sentence. This part, she went to school and passed her exams, takes care of the compound aspect of the sentence. That is the compound sentence. Now, because it is compound complex, there is the need for at least one subordinate clause. This subordinate clause could be more than one, but here we have one subordinate clause. So she went to school and passed exams because she was brilliant. Then we move to number 5, the multiple sentence. The multiple sentence contains 3 or more main clauses. 3 or more main clauses. Now, this is why we refer to this kind of sentence as a multiple sentence. 3 main clauses at least. She went to school, that's main clause 1. She passed her exams, that's main clause 2. She got a good job, that's main clause 3. Now we put these 3 together, we join them together and make them one to give us a multiple sentence. She went to school, passed her exams, and got a good job. Note the use of the comma between the first and the second main clauses. It's very important. Now we have number 5, the multiple complex sentence. The multiple complex sentence. This contains 3 or more main clauses and 1 or more subordinate clauses. Multiple complex sentence. 3 or more main clauses and 1 or more subordinate clauses. So everywhere you have the complex aspect, there should be a subordinate clause that is either 1 or more than 1. Now in the example on the screen, there are 3 main clauses and 1 subordinate clause. She went to school, main clause 1. She passed the exams, main clause 2. She got a good job, main clause 3. Then because she was brilliant, subordinate clause. We put all of this together and make them one so that we can now have just one sentence that is a multiple complex sentence. She went to school, comma, passed her exams, and got a good job because she was brilliant. Be careful not to use multiple sentences or multiple complex sentences if you cannot manage them well. If you cannot manage them well, they may lead to loss of meaning or unintended meaning or ambiguity. That is, meanings that you are not, meanings, more than one meaning can be deduced from whatever you have said, and that is very dangerous for communication process. So be careful. Do not use multiple sentences. You can break your thought into simpler sentences. You can organize your thoughts into sentences that will bring about clarity, coherence, and better understanding. Now let's move to the second section of this study, and that is talking about sentence types according to function. Remember at the beginning, I told you that let me take that again. Remember at the beginning, I told you that it is very important for you to know the functions that sentences can be made to perform, since you have to employ them in your day-to-day interaction with people all around you. So the following are the different types of sentences based on the functions they perform. Number 1, you can have declarative sentence or statement. Number 2, imperative sentence or command. Number 3, interrogative sentence or question. And number 4, exclamatory sentence. Let's take them one by one. Number 1, the declarative sentence or statement. A declarative sentence states, declares, or expresses a fact, an opinion, or an idea. This fact could be about you or something else or somebody else. Let's take a look at these examples on the board. Number 1, the earth is spherical. The earth is spherical. That's a statement of fact. That's a declaration. That's why declarative sentences are also referred to as statements. This expression is stating a fact. The earth is spherical. Number 2, hard-working people are scarce. Hard-working people are scarce. That's another statement of fact. If I say, I am beautiful, I am beautiful. That's a statement of fact. You may disprove it. You may disagree with it. But that is a fact. I'm expressing a fact, an opinion, my idea. I am beautiful. He is handsome. So declarative sentences or statements declare facts or opinions. Number 2, imperative sentence or command. This kind of sentence is used to pass instruction or make people do something. Examples are shut the door. Shut the door. Number 2, stand up. Stand up. Number 3, wear your nose mask always. Wear your nose mask always. These are sentences that are used to pass instruction or command people to do something. The imperative sentence could be in form of a polite request, and here I want you to pay close attention. Look at the example in number 4. Kindly pass the salt. That's a simple way of making a request. Kindly pass the salt. Beware of some expressions you use while requesting your lecturers or a senior person to do something for you. Consider the following. I want to sign my form. You appear before a lecturer with your forms and you tell the lecturer, I want to sign my form. It's all about you wanting to do something. So why appear before the lecturer? You could as well sit down and take your pen and do the signing yourself. Why do you have to inform the lecturer what you want to do? I want to sign my form. Go ahead. If you say that to me, I can reply this way. Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you for informing me. Go ahead, sign your form. Have a nice day. But I know that that is not your intention. And that's why you need to be careful. You need to know how to organize your words into sentences such that the meanings you are intending are not misconstrued. Number 2, can you sign my form, sir? You tell your lecturer. You ask your lecturer. It's a question. You're asking him a question. Can you sign my form, sir? Actually, what you wanted him to do, or what you want him to do, is to sign your form. Now you're saying, can you sign my form, sir? What that means is you want to find out whether he has the ability to do so. And as long as he has a table and a chair, like I have here, and as long as he has a pen and he can hold the pen and write, why not? He can sign. So he may reply you, yes, I can. My hands are intact. I have a pen. I can sign. Thank you for asking me. Have a nice day. Has that taken care of your intention? No. Then number 3, help me to sign my form. Help me to sign my form. That sounds a bit better, but it is not standard enough. It looks like a direct translation from the Yoruba language. Eba mi sign form me. For those of you who understand the Yoruba language. Help me to sign my form. Now, number 4, I want to have my form signed. That's just like, it's better than number 1. I want to have my form signed. But it can also sound like something you intend to do for the day. I want to have my form signed. You are not necessarily asking or requesting that form be signed by your lecturer. I want to have my form signed by the day. And somebody would also stand before his or her lecturer and say, I want you to sign my form. As if you are commanding the lecturer, a more superior person. I want you to sign my form. I want you to sign my form. There are ways of making polite requests. And when you make polite requests, do not concentrate more on yourself, as is the case in 4. And then the last example I gave you. I want you to sign my form. A better construction is, could you sign my form, please? Could you sign my form, please? That's better. That's acceptable. And that's a polite way of making requests. Don't forget that requests, when you make a request, you have to be polite. And you would want that person to do something for you. So you are the receiving end. You have to be mindful of the way you construct your sentences when you are making a polite request. Now, number 3, we talk about the interrogative sentence or question. This kind of sentence is used to ask questions, as the name implies, interrogating people, interrogating someone, asking question. Examples are, how old are you? How old are you? Number 2, will you be here tomorrow? Will you be here tomorrow? These are questions. Now, note that questions that demand a yes or no answer, as we have in number 2, are called polar questions. That is, when you ask the question and the answer is either yes or no. That's a very good example of a polar question. Now, those whose answers require more details than yes or no are called non-polar questions. If you ask me, how old are you? I can't say yes or no, but I'll have to give you details. I am 5 years old. I am 1 year old, whatever it is. They require details that are more than a yes or no answer. So these ones are called non-polar questions. The fourth type of sentence, according to function, is the exclamatory sentence. An exclamatory sentence expresses feelings or emotions. You know, sometimes you are happy, and sometimes you are sad. Sometimes you are excited. Sometimes you've just received an alert telling you that some amount of money has been dropped into your account, and so you're excited, you're happy, you're smiling, you're greeting everybody. You're not moody. Sometimes you're just depressed. You don't want to talk. Sometimes you are doubtful. Sometimes you are convinced about something. There are words with which you can express these feelings, these emotions. These words are exclamations. So an exclamatory sentence expresses feelings or emotions. Now, look at number 1. Hooray! Today is your birthday. Hooray! You know, on birthdays, you hear people say, hip, 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 and then you hear what? Hooray! It's an exclamation, an expression of excitement, of happiness, of joy. So, although I've heard people say pin, 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 that word is hip, 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 and others would reply, hooray! Everybody would reply, hooray! So, today is your birthday. The word hooray there, and that entire sentence is an exclamatory sentence. There's another one. Let's go to number 3. I'll come back to number 2. Bravo! You made my day. Wow! You look beautiful. That's number 4. That's common. A lot of students say that. And in fact, today you hear people say, I'm like, wow. She was like, wow. I don't know what that means. She was like, I don't know what that means. That's not acceptable. She was like, wow. It's not standard enough. But wow, you look beautiful. Then, alas, the car was burnt beyond remedy. That's something that shows emotion of sadness, you know. Alas, the car was burnt beyond remedy. Now, let's go back to number 2. Eureka, we found the vaccine for COVID-19 cure at last. That word, eureka, is not common, but it's an exclamation. It's an exclamation. So that sentence is an exclamatory sentence. You will have to refer to your GNS 101 course materials. There are so many examples there of different exclamation, expressions of exclamations that you can adopt in your day-to-day discussions or communication. You have learned the various ways by which a sentence can be defined and described. A sentence must convey a complete meaning. It must also begin with an uppercase letter and end with a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. The discussion in this session suggests to you, therefore, that words are not just arranged haphazardly. You don't just put string words together the way you like. Sentences can be described in terms of their structure or on the basis of their functions, of the functions that they perform. Note that your mastery of the structures and functions of the English sentence will aid your ability to express yourself meaningfully and appropriately in both written and spoken communication. I believe you have enjoyed the session and you have learned a lot. I would want to see you demonstrate this in your spoken English and your written English. I hope to see you in the next study session. Thank you and bye for now.